So at the beginning here, we're in the week of being. So here at the top, we like to take some time to discuss like the previous week's challenges. Here are some like topics that we can discuss here for a little bit here. Does anyone want to celebrate a win that you've had kind of during the Red Letter Challenge over the last week? Does that make sense at all?
Not for us newbies.
Yeah.
I think I crossed that threshold.
Oh, yeah?
I listened to your sermon.
Oh, you listened to my sermon?
Yes, I couldn't be there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But that's...
And I had told you last week, my big issue was just being.
Just being?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think your sermon was very nice. It made me feel less judgmental of myself and realize
Oh, good.
that I was, because I'm the youngest and everybody was always. That's a tough, place to be when you've got 5 older siblings.
Yeah.
So, and the next youngest is 9 years older than me.
Oh, so that kind of calming you down a little bit. And
Well, just always, you do this, you do that, and very judgmental.
Oh,
Even to this day.
really?
They know better.
They know that.
So, I took away from your sermon a lot, and I really appreciated that.
That's
a very good sermon.
thank you. I appreciate that. I do. Like gives me a big head about it all, so I appreciate that. No, that's great. So we're talking about being this week. Have you been confronted with anything kind of concerning being, as we kind of talk about it more? Have you had any struggles with it? Has anything been revealed to you about kind of that being idea?
I'm not sure I understand the concept totally.
Okay.
I even had to search out and make sure that I had a Bible that had red letters in it. I said, we've got so many different.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just whenever Jesus is talking.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, but the other, we've got the Message
Mhm.
and lots of other ones. And the Message doesn't have red.
Yeah, no.
And I thought it was interesting. So when you're saying being, you're talking about the communication type thing, being present.
Communication. So I was kind of talking. Shirley Mullins was here a little bit ago, and I was talking to her about being. Oh, we got all kinds of people joining.
Oh, that's good.
We'll let them come in.
I thought being was like, okay, if you're having a meal or a cup of coffee, instead of just drinking it, you really realize that you're drinking coffee and taste it. So that, to me, that's being.
No, I think that's part of it. I think that is it.
Okay.
And I'll speak to some of that a little bit here. Hello, everybody. Your cameras aren't on, but that's fine. I just want to let you know, and you're both muted. So, welcome. Being for me. So the interesting thing when Mark and I were writing the sermon for last week, I remember kind of sitting there, and Mark and Zach Zender are very much doers, like over there, and they really viewed being through the lens of doers. And probably when I was in Bentonville, I started seeing like this kind of spiritual side to things, and the way I would describe it as kind of being here. One of the best ways that I can think about it is, so often we want to just I just got to do myself out of the situation. I gotta, in the first instance, I made it, I gotta do, and, sometimes we just do all over the place. Joke. Like that's, I didn't use that in the second one. I had better jokes in the second one, but I think that's what we kind of end up doing, is we just do that all over the place. And it reminds me of, I have all these little stories about like a young Hebrew going to a rabbi, and two of them are kind of my favorite, centered around this, that like a young young Hebrew man comes up to a rabbi and he says, "Rabbi, it's like I just feel like God is so far away from me. Like God is nowhere around me. God is like He's over here. I don't know what to do about it." And the rabbi would take him outside and go, look at the leaves of the trees and see how they're moving and see how the Spirit of God is animating the creation, and take in a breath and realize that the Spirit of God is forming and inflating your lungs and giving you out and giving you that kind of breath of life. And when I was reading all the materials here, I was like, they're really trying to get you, here, hold on. Hold on. Piper's having problems finding it. Let's see here. Let me send it to her. Yeah, I can do this. Nope, not there. Not there. Let's see here. Zoom to scripture
Glory.
button.
Is that your birthday celebration up north?
So yeah, she'll come in here now. So just that idea of like realizing that God is all around us, and sometimes we miss, because He's all around us so much, that we miss the everyday, and we're looking for something grand and all that, and so we sometimes miss the small. And when I started realizing that, I was like, oh. And sometimes my most spiritual moments are when I'm just still, and not trying to create it. And that was kind of the sense I was kind of trying to get off on Sunday in the sermon, that it's not, that it's this kind of intentional stillness, that type of thing, and realizing that you don't have to do all over the place. That's
And being comfortable in your own skin.
and being comfortable in your own skin, because God values you, and that was definitely that's what I was trying to get across, because it took me a while to get to a place there. And I realize now that I'm not just a big doer anymore. I kind of value that being. So the rest of this will probably be harder for me than other times. So I don't know. Does anyone have any other thoughts so far about the being? And
I had an experience like that, very profound. I had gone in for surgery for cancer, of course, not knowing the outcome. And when I had gone in, it was still early spring. The plants weren't out yet. And I was in almost 2 months, And when it finally got to the point where I was okay, and I knew I was going to be okay, and I looked out the window of the hospital, and everything was green. And I mean, like I was like, I hadn't seen that color green. And the feeling was extreme happiness. I've never had that experience again. And even while I was having it, I was saying to myself, hold on to this feeling, because you're never going to have it again. Normal life is going to interfere with it. And at that point, I said, oh my God, this must be a touch of what it's like to be in God's presence. And it was like, this is so overwhelming to me, yet intellectually, I knew it was so minute of what could actually be. And within 2 or 3 days, the feeling was gone. But it's still here.
I was gonna say, it's not gone.
Yeah, I can't lose that.
I've had cancer also, and I had a day in church where I just felt that whole sermon was just for me, because it was about how there are miracles in your life every day if you can notice them. And for me, my cancer was caught probably a year before it should have been. And it was just miraculous for me. And I felt like, I felt that, you know,
Yeah,
the same
you know what I'm
thing.
talking
Yes,
about, yeah.
I do. I know what you're talking about. I felt like if we just be, we can see miracles around us every day. You know, that there are miracles happening. Jesus is still performing miracles around us.
Yeah.
Because I feel like all of a sudden you see hope spring alive.
Yeah.
There were a couple things. I found nothing as extreme as that. But last year with the pandemic, when we really were, could no longer go and do. Some of us, Pastor, I know you were doing more. But I did have to, I starting my day every morning out on the lanai and looking at the birds and, what have you. And it forced me to slow down and to, sit and think. And then I also learned that every time I go for a walk, because I'm fortunate, I have a beautiful lake just outside of where I live. And a lot of times when I go to walk, I would be listening to a book or a podcast or some sort of thing. And then one morning I forgot to turn it on, and I realized it was so much more beautiful because I was paying attention to what was around me and not just, listening to something else and missing half of the world that was going by.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Like that sometimes it just takes stopping. And I think that's the kernel of the beginning. And that's one thing I really liked about Zach's approach here, is that it's encouraging us to be in that kernel of seeing where God and our spirits are intertwining. That's how I would put it. I don't think he would put it that way, but that's kind of, that's our beginning, that there. And I think that's good. That's good. Hold on, my camera's yelling at me. Let me see why it's yelling. Okay.
I have no idea what he's doing.
Lucky you caught that. Like it was flashing at me, and I was like, yeah, that means problems. That means problems. I always have Zoom as recording, so that's always my bad. Well, we use both of them. Okay, so so that's good. I kind of allowing us. I don't know if I said it in the sermon or not, but at seminary, one of the things they did for us was they really fleshed us out at the beginning to be teachable, and they did a couple things to us that were emotional. You go into seminary with certain expectations. You go into a lot of things with certain expectations, and they try to flush those expectations down the toilet pretty fast.
You serve it in the military.
Yeah, like they do that. So how they do it in the military too. Like it's to make you teachable, right?
They take the ego and go.
Yeah, exactly. Like they try, like it's the same kind of idea, and so that they can kind of mold you into like a servant of the church is probably a good way of putting that. And so, so I encourage you all to kind of be teachable as you kind of go through all of these. Some days you're probably going to enjoy, some days you're not. But but like Carol said, kind of being open to it, and I think you may get more out of it. And for those that haven't heard me say this yet, like this guy, I went to seminary with him. This is an LCMS resource, and which is great. Which is great. So it's high quality. It's got good theology in it. So that's something that we don't always have in the LCMS world. So anyone else want to want to say anything?
Just that I think being is difficult because, well, two things. One, you're always stressing that, relax, we're forgiven, right?
Yeah.
But this is making you think how far from the target you are. So it's kind of like a little bit of a struggle for me.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like relax, but
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, it's that
Do you,
relax thing.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you connect, I do, I connect be with pray.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
if you're gonna start out, just, and you can pray to be.
Yeah.
Just bring me down to the core, to the basic, to the,
Yeah.
to be, with your faith.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how I really interpreted the sermon on Sunday was really when we're not being, our attention is everywhere else except for where we are. So we're living in a fantasy land of, oh, I'm over there or I'm over there, and we're not even being honest with our own selves about that. And I think that's one of the abilities of prayer, is that it gets us, it focuses us in back to here, between us and Jesus. That it's getting us into that, like kind of filtering out all the other world and able to say our requests and pray for our friends and all of those things. It's kind of centering us again. So that's kind of how I view it. That's kind of how it helps me, and how I kind of understood it. It's kind of staying in that boat there. Let's see. For those of you that were in the first service, the second service was much better sermon-wise.
Thank you so much for revealing
Like that. That's I figured out a couple things as I was up there. I was like, oh.
Suck it up.
Yeah. No, we gotta have people at the first service too. Like
That's so we can try it out and say, oh no.
Yeah. Because there's been a lot of times lately the first service has been a little better.
More number nines, I guess.
Yeah, number 9. So yeah, they're rated. So they kind of have this kind of funny thing. Has there ever been a time, which was the most inconvenient time, that your cell phone died? Has anyone ever had
Yes,
that happen?
yes.
Yeah. What happened, Judy?
I was in an accident
Oh man.
and I was so panicked I couldn't figure out how to call AAA.
Yeah.
So I called Phil.
Mhm.
And I had my grandkids with me, so I was really panicked.
Yeah. Like that's.
It was just a blowout, but it was from a truck that dumped something off the back of it, and when I went, it gave me a flat tire.
Couldn't get out of the way fast.
Oh yeah.
I actually had mine die when we were new here. I was going to a new position,
Mhm.
and I didn't know where I was going. So
Yeah.
I was depending on my phone for the navigation, and it died. And I'm like, all right, well.
Can't call anybody.
Can't tell them I'm going to be late. So it was just like hit or miss. And I did find it.
Mhm.
But it was very inconvenient.
When that happens, does anyone say, okay, God, what are you telling me?
I remember being out in the middle of
I
Kansas
forget an answer.
and needing to get a hold of somebody, and I didn't have a signal. I got plenty of battery, and there was just nobody there, and I was on the side of the road, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. Like that's.
When I was all week, there was no phone service, no cell phone.
Really?
Service, no out in the country.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So you get to live without your phone.
Well, that's good. So I have our video today that we'll watch, and
So in this 40-day challenge, Jesus is going to ask us to do a lot of things. and we're going to be excited to do them. He's going to ask us to receive his forgiveness and to give that forgiveness away to others. We're going to be serving our neighbors and our communities. We're going to be generous towards those around us. And we're going to go and be his witnesses in the world. So we got a lot to do, but before we do any of that, we need to understand something first. It's very important that you understand this, is that what we do flows out of our being with Christ. You see, before Jesus ever asks us to do anything, he invites us into a relationship with him. And that time we spend in relationship with him is really important because that impacts what we do for him. There's a lot of people that are followers of Jesus that get frustrated with themselves, and you might say something like, man, I wish I was more loving, or I wish I was more kind or more generous. And people think they have a doing problem, and so when they say that, it's almost like I'm gonna grit my teeth together, I'm gonna be more loving, and I'm gonna forgive more. But Jesus doesn't ask us to grit our teeth together and pull us up on our bootstraps and try harder. What he asks us is to be with him. Many of us don't have a doing problem, we have a being problem. So today I'm out on a golf course, and I believe golf's going to teach us a lot about what it means to be with Christ. So I'm going to play, I got a par 4 here, I got a good round going, and I'm going to play it in, and you're going to see just how good of a golfer I am, which is a little bit scary for me. Oh, baby. That's beautiful. So golf is my favorite sport in the world to play, but it's probably the most frustrating sport ever. And what's frustrating to me is I can usually walk into most other sports and almost off the bat be decent, but man, I've tried to be great at golf for more than 20 years, and I couldn't figure out why I can't get over the hump until my kids started playing golf this summer. You see, there was a golf course that had free clinics all summer long, and it was the first summer my kids started playing. They're 9 and 6, and so it was really fun getting to see them learn the game. And so at this clinic on Sundays, there would be free practice, so it was stations. And so if you know golf, you'd hit your drivers and you'd hit your irons and you'd spend time in the sand and working on your sand game, and you'd chipping and putting and all of it. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, they'd actually let the kids play the course. And my kids didn't actually like Sundays, but they loved going to play the course. And I'm wired the same way. I never wanted to practice. I just wanted to get out on the course and play, and I thought that'll be my practice out there. But what happens is, yeah, I can have some good shots here and there, but my game is wildly inconsistent because I didn't spend enough time practicing like I should have. So Gary Player, one of golf's all-time greats, once said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And we know, of course, the more we practice things, just the better we get. And so if I really want to be great at golf, I need to spend time practicing. I need to be on the driving range. I need to be putting on the green. I need to be chipping around the green and the sand with the bunker shots. I just have to do those things if I want to be great. And the reality is, I truly believe the more I practice at this game, the more enjoyable the game will actually be on the course. And I think the same is true when it comes to us and our relationship with God, and especially in this Red Letter Challenge, that the more we spend time with Christ and be with him, the more enjoyable the things we do for him will be. And Jesus talks to his disciples, much like golf, how there's many facets of the game. Jesus gives his disciples many different ways in which we can be with him, in which we can connect with him. And we call these things spiritual disciplines. So Jesus talks a lot about these disciplines, and he tells us different ways that we can connect with him and be with him. And so in this first full week of the Red Letter Challenge, days 6 through 12, we're going to see that Jesus asks his followers to abide in his word. And so we're going to spend time in God's word, in the Holy Bible, and learn more about who he is and the story of what he's done for us. And he tells his disciples to pray earnestly. And so we're going to learn that prayer can be a conversation between us and God, and it can actually refresh us. We're going to talk about resting in him and what it means to fast and what it means to take a Sabbath. And all of these principles, all of these things are disciplines for us to connect greater with the God that made us. And so I'm going to try to make my 30-foot birdie putt here, and let's just see what happens. You see, really being the best follower of Jesus that we want to be is a combination of both being and doing. And after all that Jesus has done for me, I want to represent him well. I want to do the best that I can. And so that's why this Red Letter Challenge exists. And what I want to tell you is you can't be a great disciple of Jesus without knowing who he is and without spending time with him. And I think the spiritual disciplines for us are the same way. We can go out and try to do great things for Christ, and we probably will. But if we don't have that foundation and that relationship with Jesus, we'll quickly burn out. And I think the spiritual disciplines are those things that give us the fuel and give us the energy to do what Christ asks. So when we spend time in his word, we learn more about what Jesus has done and how amazing he is. And when I spend time praying with him, I experience this peace from God that passes all human understanding. And when I rest in him and when I fast from things in this world, man, I'm reminded that God is my provider. When I do all of these things, I'm fueled up and I have the energy to actually do what Jesus calls us to do. And so I really hope you spend some really great time being with Jesus this week, learning who he is, experiencing what he's done for you. And I truly believe that'll change you.
Okay, let me stop this. All right, and we're back. Okay, so for after watching that, it's recommended that we read Daniel chapter 6, 7 through 10. So if you remember where Daniel is, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea. I think is kind of where that is. It's after a lot of like Isaiah, Jeremiah. It's after those. Daniel chapter 6.
Daniel's correct.
Correct. Daniel chapter 6. It's the Daniel in the Lion's Den story, and I'll read it out loud here in a little bit too. Just give some people opportunity to get to it. I start doing, I call them sword drills. Do races. So you could get there, and then you get thrown a starburst. I do this in confirmation with the kids. You get a starburst if you win a race.
Candy bars are better.
The candy bars? Candy bars are better in some way. They're better in the being way, right? Like right away. I'm evidence of eating too many candy bars. Daniel chapter 6. Chapter 6. All right. So we're not going to read a ton of this, but chapter 6, verses 7 through 10. I'm gonna read 6 through 10. So these administrators and the satraps went as a group to the king and said, "My king Darius, live forever." Sucking up to the king right there. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and the governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue the decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be repealed. So King Darius put the decree in writing. Now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Is everyone familiar with this story? So basically they kind of find that out, that he's still praying. Notice it says he's doing so in his room. He's doing so in his room. He's doing kind of by himself and all that. And the whole reason why the edict was started is because Daniel was actually doing a really good job serving the king here, and those satraps and all that stuff really hated him for it. And so, yeah, they're jealous. They were jealous of him, and so they wanted to get rid of him and all that stuff. But so he can kind of continued that whole that practice there of praying in his room. So when facing the punishment of death, Daniel continued to practice being with God, praying 3 times a day and following closely after God with diet, service, and leadership, while living as an exile in a foreign land without a church building or an organized religion. Do you think it's possible to love people the way Jesus did if we aren't spending time in his presence?
No.
No? Any explanations as to why or why not?
Yeah, I wrote another Bible verse down, Romans 12, verse 2, chapter 12, verse 2. Do
Yeah.
not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And Daniel was not transformed by his world. He was true to God. So then you will be able to test and approve what God will be, what God's will is, good, pleasing, and perfect will. So I don't think you can if you don't let go of the world, and you have to be in Jesus and in his word to know what's the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Anyone else? Wrong answers are okay too. I think that idea of being, that's I think a lot of ways to healing and bringing healing to the communities around us, bringing the good news to people around us, is being able to sit in your own seat, being able to sit with yourself, being able to be with yourself, and not try to, we're going to get into forgiveness here for just 1 second, but not trying to fix your deficiencies in someone else, and so that's I think that happens a lot, and so that fix our own insecurities in someone else. So that's and I think all this stuff. So I think prayer, I think all that happens to us because you see Daniel in the story of Daniel, the whole story of Daniel is kind of interesting. You have the king, which ended up having Nebuchadnezzar coming up, but you have the king and the satraps, and everyone is chasing after accolades and power except Daniel, and he keeps getting it. And the whole picture is that Daniel's fine with whatever may come. He's fine with the lion's den.
He's an example of the least of these.
Yeah. He's, it may not be optimal going to the lion's den, but he's fine.
And he's not trying to fix it himself either. He's not saying, okay, how am I going to get out of this, or what do I have to do?
Yeah.
It's just, okay, what's coming is coming.
Yeah. And that's difficult. It's difficult to get there. That's it in a very tangible sense. But what's interesting with the kings later with Nebuchadnezzar is that Nebuchadnezzar ends up losing his mind and becoming and starts grazing out in the fields and all those things. And the sense of the story is trying to tell us there is that Nebuchadnezzar lost his humanity. That all he was doing was trying to focus on other things, and he was treating people terribly and treating people as less human, right? And so he loses his humanity and becomes a beast of the field. And the thing is like all these other servants, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel, and all these different, that they are retaining their humanity, even through all this. So that's and it's just by this idea of being. So Does anyone else have anything before I go on? So the challenges for this week of being focus on several spiritual disciplines. Some of them are Bible reading, prayer, worship, solitude and rest, fasting, celebrating God with others, and Sabbath. So what do these disciplines look like in your life right now?
You do, is that what you're?
Yeah. What do these disciplines look like in your life right now?
We've done fasting, but it's not for the right reason.
Well, what do you mean it's not for the right reason?
Well, we were fasting so that we wouldn't scare the scale.
Let's get scared. Make the scale run a little faster. Yeah,
I'm with you, Judy. Fasting is not in my vocabulary.
Well, you don't have to, yours. I know that was Piper that was.
Yeah, that's not in my
One thing is the
vocabulary.
fast during Lent, you know.
Oh, it's fast during Lent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We would do that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
I haven't done that in years.
And that's really
I don't
like,
know if it really helped, but.
I mean, that was the whole idea with fasting, through Lent. That's why McDonald's has a fish fillet. Like it's because a lot of people were fasting. Do you know what the Lent fasting sandwich was before the fish fillet? Does anyone know?
Bread and water, I don't know.
No. It was they called it the Hawaiian burger, and it was a slice of pineapple with a slice of cheese on it.
Oh,
Grilled. That was it. I don't like fish, but I have a feeling the fish was a step above. But I think that fasting, I think it's one of those things. Well, so that's why I kind of pushed on it. Are you sure it wasn't for like you're scaring the scale? But a lot of times, what fasting does is it shows ourselves that we're not captive.
Well, that's true. That's true.
That
We look forward to that next meal.
Oh yeah, you look forward to the next meal. Oh yeah, you look forward to it.
Especially if you know.
Yeah.
If you're out in the wilderness and you don't know where your next meal is, that's totally different. But when you know that you have a meal in the refrigerator if you wanted it, but you're going, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, and you're not held captive to that. And I think that's a big part of just fasting in general. That you're not held captive.
I thought it was interesting. He was talking about not necessarily just food, but picking some particular thing, whether it be TV or whether it be, whatever, that maybe you give up some time. I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and it's not easy. But I also thought, but if I give up some particular activity or whatever, maybe I could take that time to do the other things that he's asking us to do. To be reading the Bible, to be doing other things, So I'm not sure what it is yet, though.
She must be further ahead because we're reading day 6.
Well, you got to go. So this week is day 6 through 13.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So 14 will be Sunday.
But
So 14.
Carol is correct. Fasting isn't just about food.
No.
It's about denial of whatever. But in the reality, does Jesus really want us to deny anything? To deny ourselves? I mean, other than things that aren't, like sins against the 10th commandment, but I mean, does Jesus really want us to deny TV or deny certain things or whatever?
I think it's more I saw something this morning on TV. It was a pastor bachelor that was talking about being addicted to ice cream. And so it makes me think, and then he brought it into talking about other addictions and things in the Bible that had to do with that. And so I think that the fasting is doing what's good for your body, your mind, your whole spiritual kind of thing, not just the food. but to get off the bad things, which are things we're addicted to that we shouldn't be doing or saying or eating or whatever.
Yeah.
But are we addicted or are we just enjoying it?
Well, how much of a fine line is that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it this way
I
too.
mean,
If God didn't want us to do these things, why did he provide the
Provide them.
knowledge and the whatever to produce them and make them available to us?
So I think that's, so like we just finished the Great Divorce in here. And one of the things they talk about in that, one of the things that spoke to me the most is the people that love collecting books so much that they've lost the ability to read them. You know?
and that's an addiction.
And I think that is kind of like many of us in certain ways have lost the ability to use the good things of God that are around us, you know, to use like Phil's language there, that we've lost, and it's just having them is like providing something that you can just, it's like an itch that you continue to scratch, and it's lost the luster, and now you're just kind of just going about it. I don't know.
I think the fasting also lets you reevaluate.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I'm on no TV.
No TV.
Normally I get up in the morning, that's the first thing, I'm not even up, I don't even have
Yeah.
coffee, and that TV is on.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, gee, why was it so important to put that TV on this morning?
Yeah.
You know, I pretty much know what they're going to be saying. You know, this is going on, that is going on. This, you know, this is going on in the Gulf. This is going on in the Middle East. This is what's going on politically. You know, did I really need to do that? Or was there a better way for me to spend my time?
We could be addicted to our phone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't think we have that problem as our ages mostly are in this room. But you look at young people and they cannot even go to a restaurant and have a meal without.
They don't know how to communicate.
It's sad. It is sad.
So let's keep it with what's going on. What's going on here? But like, so in my own life here, like, so I realized I listen to, like, as soon as I get in the car, podcasts start up, I listen to tons of podcasts. And one of the things that I kind of realized a few weeks ago now, that I was just listening to informational stuff, or you could call it news or just information. And I was like, I'm not giving my brain, news and information is like sugar. It makes it feel like you're eating something, but you're not, you know? And it makes it feel like you're informed, but you're really not. You may kind of know what's going on, but that's just a constant digest of it. And I was like, I need to start. So I've been getting more stories and things like that that's kind of how I've been working that in more, like, because it gives your brain something to chew on, something that's healthy. One of my favorite podcasts right now is LeVar Burton Reads. You guys remember who LeVar Burton is? Mm-hmm. Reading Rain. So he's a cultural prophet for us millennials. The Reading Rainbow is the Reading Rainbow guy. If you guys remember Reading Rainbow, but he reads. It's basically Reading Rainbow for people in their 30s. But he reads these short stories.
Burton.
Yeah, LeVar Burton. And he should have been the host on Jeopardy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it was Star Trek.
Yeah. He's from Star Trek too.
Yeah.
But that's trying to just get more fiction in and all that stuff. So any of the other ones besides fasting, we've talked about that one for a little bit now with the Bible reading, prayer. Which one of these comes easiest to you, do you think? We'll change it up. And which one of them is the biggest struggle? Let's go ahead. Someone was going to say something.
For me, it's praying.
Praying? Is it easy or struggle?
Oh, it's easy.
That's the easy one?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it has to do with what I've been through
Mm-hmm.
for the past 7 months, 8 months.
Yeah.
It has really brought me closer to God.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So
So praying's a little easier now. That's,
practice makes perfect.
practice makes perfect. That's kind of the idea, isn't it, of the being stuff? The what is there anyone else? Which ones comes easy? Which one do you struggle with?
I had some trouble with the prayer part in that I realized I thought back about it and, things have happened to people and I said I would pray for them and I did that day, but did I remember to pray for them the next day in the next, and so I've started writing them down in a little notebook so that before I start praying, I remember, to include these people and not just have it be a one-off sort of thing, because I was not being as intentional as I should have been. At least I didn't think so.
Yeah.
We do the same thing, and whenever we say the person's name, I think of them. I truly think of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope they realize that I'm praying for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, go ahead.
She knew.
Oh, yeah. There's also, if you go on our website, and just scroll down a little bit, it says pray with us. That has the current prayer list on it for the church.
Yeah.
And we that's always updated. Like we put in back right before Midge left, we put in things where who's ever on that prayer list, they have to communicate with us at least once every 3 weeks, or they fall off of it. That way, everyone here knows that it's current. That's all that. So yeah, Piper, you were about to say something.
Nope.
Oh, never mind. For me,
There she is.
yeah. For me, one of them that's that I know I struggle with, because I always have kind of a little project burning, is Sabbath. Sabbath, or the solitude rest thing, like that. That's one where it's like, oh man, I've been kind of halfway working all day type of thing, and it's like, did I actually sit back and for me and just kind of just be for a little bit, be with Jesus, be with all those things, do something that isn't just work. We're trying to make myself better, like to just sit and be for a little bit. So I think that's a struggle for me.
Maybe we.
That's a struggle for me too. I wake up in the morning like at 5 and I just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I'm out walking and doing things around the house, and then I'm at the gym, and I'm like, yeah, I struggle with that too. Just trying to take a deep breath, relax, sit back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you, Chris.
Yeah. Well, one of them, and the thing is too with me, it's not like I'm working effectively all the time either. It's just kind of constantly got something burning, and I get tired and realize that I haven't. And for me, downtime is like watching a movie or something.
Because there's always ideas in the brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like that. It might not be effective, but it's like I'm always thinking about the next thing and the next thing, and what about this and what about that, and yeah.
If you write it down, then you don't have to have that whirling around in your brain. And I find that's the best thing.
I do. I wake up in the middle of the night and I get up and write notes and I take. I do.
Years ago, I passed it along to my dad, who was a real warrior type. And he said it worked for him. And I passed it along to my sister, and she said, whoa. You take your list, or in your head, you say, okay, this, and this, I've got so many irons in the fire. And then at night, this was because he had trouble sleeping, you look in the mirror and you say, okay, here you go. I don't want it till morning. And then you leave them there and you say, it's time to rest, and you rest. And you get up in the morning, I didn't really want all that stuff.
It's not that easy.
No,
I was in a psychology class.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Setting a time.
I mean, I might wake up in the morning and say, okay, maybe this isn't as high a priority as I thought it was, and it moves down the list. But no, everything that I'm doing, yeah, still is on the list somewhere.
Oh, she's busy.
Even during quiet time.
So I'll call you some night, I'll call you, Chris, sometime at like 2 or 3 a.m.
No, yeah?
Say hi.
I'm with you, Piper.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like the brain is just always going. And the thing is, for me, that's like, oh, I'm being good. But like, the spiritual side of me is like, kind of wonders, is like, am I? Just
Yeah.
kind of going like that, or is that just like a lie that I'm telling myself, and that I should stop?
But that's the dilemma,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because, you know, your earthly being, your, you know, brain, physical, it's like all this stuff to do. And then on the other side, it's like, but is this really important? Does this really have to be? You know, what, can it not wait? It's a real balance. It's a real struggle for me.
I write it down.
That's where you go to prayer.
Yeah. Go to prayer, get back in the boat.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that kind of, it doesn't provide any answers, but at the end of John, when Jesus is on the shore, and he's like, cast your nets to the other side. No, that's at the very last little bit of John. And Peter gets clothed and jumps in the water and goes up to Jesus. There's an interesting thing that happens right there. Peter comes up on the shore and he sees Jesus, and he's cooking fish on the fire. And the thing some of us have to ask that question is, where do those fish come from? Like, the fish were already there, you know? Mm-hmm. Then when the other disciples come up, Jesus like, bring fish and come over there. And I think some of us, we probably have to hear one side more than another, but I think at various different points in times in our life, sometimes we need to hear there's fish already on the fire. And you just need to come and sit down. And then there's some of us that need to hear, go bring some more fish, you know? And I don't know where we all are in that time frame and all of that, but sometimes we need to hear that there's fish already there. Sometimes we need to hear that we need to go get some more.
That's just the if person.
The if?
My best friend is that if this and if that and if that and if that.
Oh, yeah.
That everything playing out if all the ifs come together. And
Yeah.
that's like, God will be with you and get you where you need to be, whatever his will is.
Yeah.
All these ifs and then she goes, it didn't happen or whatever like that. And I think that what you're talking about takes care of the if question.
Yeah. That's and then another thing, and I think it affects our being. There was a pastor that I heard talking one day, and he said our psyche changed in the Industrial Revolution, because an Industrial Revolution was the first time we could hit a button and out would pop a
widget.
Something. Yeah, a widget. You know, out would pop something, and it was the first time that it wasn't a analog process. You know, it was so fast, and that has affected our spiritual lives too. And I think it's affected our being. That we think that it's like, oh well, I prayed, I hit the button. Like, where's my spiritual life? You know, like that's and that's the truth is that that's a very new thing. That's a very new thing, and so I don't think these are that. I like that he called them spiritual disciplines, but the idea of Bible reading, prayer, worship, solitude, fasting, celebrating God with others, and Sabbath, that those things they're not buttons that you hit, but they're kind of a lifestyle that you're falling into. And you're realizing that you're kind of there and kind of being fine with your own self then. But because when you're fine with your own self, you can rest. You know, because you know God is right there with you. And that's kind of what next week's about too. So I don't know, did anyone have any thoughts?
Isn't society constantly telling us we're not okay?
Oh yeah, that's
we have to be pretty.
Society's
smarter,
constantly selling.
Cuter, skinnier,
Mm-hmm.
richer, more popular.
It's been part of the way things have been for a long time, and that's just it's constantly pulling us away from ourselves and getting us to think about all that. Because if I can just be over there, getting out of our boat, if I can be over there, then I can purchase my way to that, or I can dehumanize these other people to get to that. Like, so that's I think it's good to be in these spiritual disciplines of Bible reading, prayer, worship, solitude, rest, fasting, celebrating God with others. Sabbath can help us get there. So, I have, for our closing thought and prayer, I have, if a man wants to be used by God, he cannot spend all of his time with people. That's A.W. Towser said that.
Wow.
And for our prayers today, our thoughts this week is pray for the Lord to draw each of you near to him this week. Pray for your group to recharge with God and celebrate with him and find rest in him. So that's kind of our encouragement for this week. So we'll say a prayer. We'll pray for Joanne and for Susan Becker.